Video game!
Okay, I am about 55 hours into playing Metal Gear Solid 5 on PS3. Uh-oh, yeah. Okay, remember when I said I was only going to be playing it on my laptop, and I'm about, I think 10 or 12 hours into playing it on my laptop on my commute to and from work. Check out WACTS, my commute show. I said I wasn't going to be playing it at home because I wanted to focus on my kid and all that. Here's the thing. Alistair is totally cool with just being held in my arms and jostled a little bit and hanging out with me while I play a game. Like, he just needs to be held a lot of the time, and so because, yes, I read to him and I focus on him and I give him attention, but sometimes he just wants to be close to me or Liz and that kind of thing, so I really haven't felt that bad playing my favorite game in the world on PlayStation while hanging out with him, and especially when it's late at night and we're just waiting for him to get tired. Great thing about video games, especially something like Metal Gear Solid, is they keep me awake. It doesn't matter how tired I am. I could have only gotten 3 hours of sleep the night before. They do something to my brain that just keeps me focused. There have been games that I just stayed up all night playing. I remember when I got Red Faction as a kid. I bought that game, went home, it was like 8 p.m., and then by like 6 a.m. the next day I had just beaten the game, and it was like, oh, cool, I can do that. That's something that can happen. So anyway, I'm finding justifications for playing it at home. You can probably tell I do feel a little bit guilty about it, but it really hasn't resulted in anything bad, except for a couple times when I was really entranced with the TV screen, and then Alistair's head kind of started to drift at a weird angle, and it's like, oh god, I need to support him. So I'm going to be careful about that. But anyway, let's talk about the game. I think right now my percentage is, it says I'm 40% through the game. I've beaten Chapter 1, the first ending that I think a lot of people were describing, talking about, the ending of the game that a lot of people, or several people, I guess, reached while doing the press event. And, yeah, I mean, again, this is by far my favorite game to play ever. It's incredibly satisfying, incredibly fun. The strategy that you're forced to come up with, I can't say enough good things about that. But it's fascinating that the story, especially for this first chapter, it just comes in fits and starts. The pacing is so weird, and then when it ended, it was just kind of like, oh, okay, I guess that's the end of that. There wasn't nearly as much character development delving into this stuff as I thought, and I was expecting this kind of Breaking Bad-esque progression to the whole story, where you're watching Big Boss make progressively more and more kind of shady decisions, and it makes sense to him, very Walter White, but to the audience, it's like, oh no, don't go that far. And that hasn't really happened yet, because Kiefer Sutherland in the cutscenes has said a total of 15 lines. It's really bizarre. That being said, the cinematics are there, beautifully done, the graphics are gorgeous. I can't believe how well optimized it is on PS3, and it's always fun, by the way, so everything I'm doing on my work computer, on my commute, is missions I've already played now, and being able to see the contrast and oh, that looked really good on PS3. That looks amazing on my laptop. That's a really cool thing to be experiencing. But yeah, I guess I just want to say that because it seems like there's such it's unfortunate to say this, but a missed opportunity to really play with the lore of the universe. And I'm not saying give us more hour-and-a-half cutscenes, which I totally loved, but I'm not saying you have to do more of that. Just with the cutscenes that are there and with the story that's there, there's so much more opportunity to play with the universe and do more with some of the characters that we want to know more about, and to find some resolution to various things, various relationships, various plot threads. Anyone who's played Peace Walker or Metal Gear Solid 3 probably knows some of the things I'm talking about. Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised that there's only 2 levels in the world. Metal Gear Solid 4 had Afghanistan, South America, which, by the way, are very similar to the Afghanistan and Africa levels that are in this game. But then you went back to Shadow Moses, and you had this Eastern European level, and you had this, giant tanker for the last battle. And that was cool, because a lot of that was held back. And so if every time you went to a new level, it was a surprise. And it's like, oh, look at this totally cool new place. And mind you, those weren't giant open worlds. But, I mean, we started seeing what Africa in Metal Gear Solid 5 looked like over a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. And so I was really hoping there was going to be a surprise here, something that we hadn't seen. I'm not saying we have to go back to Selino-Yarsk or whatever the Russian jungle was in Metal Gear Solid 3, but something Yeah, something surprising in terms of a setting would have been really cool, and I still don't know anything about if you do get to go back to Camp Omega, the setting in Ground Zeroes. Hideo Kojima had this whole thing where he's talking about like something that had never been done before, that's only possible through video games, and something related to people who had already bought Ground Zeroes. I have no idea if that actually came to fruition, but yeah, I guess just a few quick little things that are kind of niggling concerns about the game. One, terrain traversal. The open world's totally gorgeous. I don't mind the fact that they're missing civilians and farmers and all that kind of stuff. Fine, it's nothing but guards, that's fine. But it can be really frustrating to land in a location and you see the little marker that says, okay, my objective is 100 meters away. And you start running toward it and you hit a mountain and you're like, oh, well, you know what? It's not that tall of a mountain. I should be able to jump right up there. And then you just can't. And so now you need to run around the mountain, like 500 meters, you know, half a kilometer going around it because Snake can't, you know, reach that thing that's maybe a couple inches too high. I guess I'm saying that from a level design perspective, it should be crystal clear what you can and can't do. I mean, I think something that was really fun about me playing Assassin's Creed 2, which is the only Assassin's Creed game I've played last year, and again, I was totally new to that, was that you could look at pretty much anything in those worlds, and there was a way to get to there. Top of a building, weird spot under a bridge, you know, there was always some way to get there, and sometimes it required some crazy jumping and parkour kind of stuff, but the only thing that allows that sometimes in Metal Gear Solid is you find these cracks in, you know, rock walls or mountains, and you can climb those cracks, but those are few and far between, and yeah, it's just frustrating. It's just frustrating to not be able to go to places that look like you should be able to go to them. And let's be frank, I want to be able to go to the top of a mountain. One thing that's fun in Far Cry 4 is you get these helicopters and you can just fly around and then like, oh, that's some really tall point. I'll jump out of the helicopter, land there, roll. I'm injured, but not too bad. And then just, wow, what a gorgeous view. And I wish there were more opportunities in Metal Gear Solid 5 to just enjoy the view, to find a tall point and look out, because it is a gorgeous game, but you don't get a lot of long views of everything. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of where my thoughts are right now. The stuff I'm doing now, it's weird it's making me repeat some missions, which is kind of strange. Like, I'm totally for that as an optional time attack, trophy, platinum, whatever kind of thing. But to make that required and to not have any reason for it, like it's not part of the story, it's just like, oh, redo these missions, but in a harder way. That seems really strange, and I have no idea what the justification is behind that. Let's see, the helicopter really should be able to take you wherever you want in Afghanistan and Africa when you're already there. It's really weird that it has that ability when you're at Mother Base. You can be on one of your platforms and be like, I want to go to the medical platform, and it'll take you right there. But for some reason, when you're in Africa, you can't get on your helicopter and be like, I just want to go to that other mission that's like, you know, 2 kilometers that way, and I don't feel like running that distance. You can't make your helicopter do that. You have to go back to the ACC and then, you know, go back to the mission. So that's kind of weird. Stuff going on with Quiet is really cool. She's a really cool character, and I just wish that she wasn't drawn, presented, filmed so much like a sex object, because it just kind of detracts from some of the layers and dimensionality that really is in a very interesting character that's pretty integral to the story. And by the way, like, it's remarkable to think that you can play this game without Quiet. Like, I mean, I just feel like the game would be so much more empty without her, because she's so well integrated into the themes of the game and a lot of the major plot beats that without her, it would just kind of be like, oh, we don't know why this is happening, and that'd be kind of a shame. There was a mission I finished where I was like, great, I did all that stuff, I just need to exfiltrate the hot zone, but a couple guards I interrogated had been like, oh yeah, I'll tell you where the prisoners are, and there were these 2 well-guarded prisoners. I was like, these guys are super well-guarded, I bet it would be super worth it to extract them. So I spent all this time, like probably an hour, totally separate from the main mission, grabbing these prisoners. I throw them in my Jeep, and I'm like, okay, let's go find like a safe spot, and I'll shoot them up in my Fulton, and that'll be awesome. So I put them in my Jeep, and I start driving, and then without realizing it, I had exfiltrated the hot zone. And so then I see behind me, because it's a you know, Mother Base brand Jeep that I had deployed with, it has its own Fulton, it shoots up into the sky, and I'm like, oh, I guess that's fine. And so the Jeep went back to my Mother Base, but the prisoners I had in there just disappeared. No, I didn't get them. And so that was kind of frustrating, because I spent a bunch of time there. And yeah, and whatever. You know, I'm just, this is just kind of a little update. This is how I'm feeling about Metal Gear Solid 5 right now. I love it. It's a ton of fun. I look forward to playing it whenever I can, playing it on PC. And the way I'm playing it on PC is totally a different experience than what I'm doing on PS3 because I'm just using those opportunities to play them differently. Some people have said missions feel repetitive and that kind of thing. It doesn't feel that way at all to me. I like that the missions are similar enough to not feel totally out of left field, but excuse me, you know, the terrain, the location, the goals are just different enough for you to be like, okay, I think I have a general idea of how I'm going to approach this, but then if things go crazy or something happens, you know, it's really fun to play with whatever happens. So anyway, that's really cool. Metal Gear Solid 5, it's absolutely a 5-star game for me. And I'll just say before even nearing the proper end of the game, now that we know that there was a Chapter 3, to this game planned, for God's sakes, people, I don't care, do a Kickstarter or something. Let's see this thing made. Get the old crew back together, everyone who used to work at Kojima Productions who's probably fired now or something. Let's do whatever we can to bring them together and make that Chapter 3, because from what I understand, the game right now feels like it's missing a proper ending, and luckily that doesn't bother me too much in Chapter 2, because I'm playing for so many reasons besides the story, but God, it's so hard to imagine, like, how, because the game is already so amazing, like, how much more amazing it would have been if the story really was driving your desire to complete the missions. Because right now, it's a sense of fun that's driving me to complete missions. I really don't care that much about what's happening in the story. It's fine, but it is, for all intents and purposes, kind of just a background thing, like, oh right, that's happening while I'm doing this thing, rather than I'm doing this thing to make this happen, and because this is happening. This sense of revenge, you know, that's supposed to be fueling the game, this Breaking Bad, going to Walter White to Scarface, Mr. Chips to Scarface thing, that doesn't feel that present. And yeah, whatever. It's, again, great game. That's how I feel about it right now. I'll tell you more next week. Thanks.